Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the To Hull and Back podcast. We are obviously sponsored by 6 Yards Out, your home for customizable retro items. You can basically put any kit design on any household item, mugs, coasters, phone cases, cushion covers, the works. They've got a 4.2 rating out of 5, for Trustpilot, so you're getting good quality there. Just head to their website. It will be on our link tree, but it is just 6yardsout.com if you want to head over just straight away. And obviously, we are also sponsored by Pearson's Bar, the place to be for your pre- and post-match beers. And I think before we get into it as well, obviously, to anyone that's voted for us on the FCAs, I did put a video out the other day to say thank you, but I will say it again at the beginning of this episode. Anyone who is voting, do give it a share. Do give us a vote if you can do. We're aiming at the top 10. I think the finalists are announced on the 19th of September. So hopefully we make that bill and we can start voting again at that point. So cheers to everybody that's voting. We've got Tom on with us as his first debut as a fully fledged member of the team. How are you today, Tom?
Yeah, I'm great, thanks. I'm happy to be joining the team. So what about you?
Yeah, I'm all right today. I've had a day off work, so I'm feeling a bit more relaxed. And our ever-present Will, who brings us so much joy and happiness in episodes and no expletives.
No one's ever said that in their lives.
It's nice to have no Nathaniel today, which is a good episode because we've got a couple of players returning from injury, and I think he'd be a bit unbearable, wouldn't he? So we'll move on then. Obviously, the West Brom game, unfortunately, the unbeaten run ending in quite emphatic fashion. But I'll come to you first, Tom, because you said you was there. Obviously, it was a 5-2 defeat, but it wasn't really a fair reflection of the game. Would you agree with that?
I'd say so. Yeah, the West Brom were clinical when they had the chances. So obviously once they got 4 goals ahead, that was it. So obviously we crumbled. So I mean, it was one of them games where the injuries are going to take its toll eventually. And I thought first 20 minutes we matched them, and then obviously as soon as Tufan goes down, that's it. Right. Obviously Woods comes on, and he's not the same player. He's different to what Tufan is. He's the link between midfield and forward, where I'd say Woods is similar to the mold of the Slater, breaks up play. He can carry the ball forward, but he's not someone that's going to run in behind like Tufan does. That's what obviously he did against Burnley, but it was disappointing to lose Tufan because he's obviously one of my most important players, and that's what killed the game really. So yeah.
Because I think from what I saw of the game, because I was sort of in and out of it on iFollow while I was at work, but it was more of a, even though we lost 5-2, I still feel like there was a positive feeling around the club because we deserved to score at least a couple more anyway, and a few of their goals were quite dodgy or long ranges that you couldn't really do much about. And but the fact that we managed to even muster up 2 goals, considering the facts, like you say, we went 4-0 down. That I think last season, if that happens, we're dead and buried and probably lose 5-6-0. But
it's Wigan.
Oh yeah, obviously 5-2 is still not an ideal result. But we scored a couple of goals and ended up with the top scorer and joint top assister in the league, and it showed that they carried on playing despite the big scoreline difference. And I think that's a bit more of a difference in this team. It looks like he's got a bit of character. We look like we've got somebody who can even given the circumstances of the game, can even try and affect the game positively or change it in a way. Would you agree with that statement, Will, or am I stretching?
No, I'd agree with that. I think that was the thing that felt different from previously. Even when there was losing comfortably, they still never put their heads down like they were done previously and sort of got off. They kept trying to attack full pelt whenever they got the chance. Obviously, losing Tufan, like was said by Tom, was just it, because before Tufan went off, I thought we were maybe just marginally the better side, but the moment he went off, the attacking. I mean, the thing is, Ryan Woods, when he came out, I thought he had a good game. I thought he looked decent. He played some decent passes. There was one particular pass when Oscar was saved onto the bar. There was a really nice pass through in particular, but it's not the same player. He's not there for the same reasons. But I thought our play, despite it's weird because it didn't feel like a 5-2 in the slightest. I think West Brom deserved to win. I think we deserved to lose probably overall, but it didn't feel like a comprehensive beating that the scoreline suggested in any way.
Yeah, it was a frustrating game really because, like you say, we hitting the crossbar twice. Their penalty was, when I look back at it, it's a bit soft, but you see him given it's Coyle's corner kind of left a foot in. Couple of long ranges. Could we maybe ask questions about the defense? Maybe Matt Ingram doing better on a couple of them goals, maybe closing down the long shots a bit quicker. I think he was maybe unsighted for the first one, but if they've got players like John Swift in the team that can do them kind of shots and offer that sort of danger, do you think maybe we need to be? I know we like to sit deep at the minute in our current system, but do we need to be trying to close these down on the edge of the box a bit more, or is it just a case of this was just a bad luck day and just
I think the first half an hour. It looks like to me two sides that are going to be up there this season. The quality of the football was good. I felt like both teams got the ball down, spread it about, and obviously Tufan going off, changed the pattern of the game. But obviously going to Oscar now, that will use obviously the main positive to come out of that game. He's two well taken goals. I mean, the first one, he's in the box. Tete obviously does well on the against West Dano Fairlong, beats him and then manages to put a ball in the box. And obviously Estepinan's there to put it in. And then the second goal, shrugs off Ajayi with ease and then, places it nice into the corner. And obviously we looked at his goal record from the Portuguese league, 18 goals last season. And 15 goals was in 28 games. And that's an impressive record. Usually you look at a player's record from another league, maybe from the Dutch league, and you think, he's going to come to England and struggle. But Oscar's hit the ground running, and that's what you like to see. I mean, it shows the Portuguese leagues that, they have some talent in the past in terms of the, if someone usually scores goals in that league, they're usually a decent player. It's quite a high standard league. So it's good that we've managed to get him on a free transfer. What I want to say defensively as well is that I thought the fullbacks were at fault for a couple of the goals, I think, in terms of it's a mixture between the fullbacks and our wingers not tracking back. There was times in the game where Coyle was isolated in a 2v1 situation and Williams wasn't getting back, whereas if Ali was there, there's marginal difference. Ali gets back and maybe helps Coyle out a bit more. There's obviously one of the goal where Coyle's tucked in and then doesn't get out quick enough and they score from it. But these are sort of like the differences between us and West Brom. At that point, West Brom had the quality to bring off the bench, change it, and change the style go forward. Whereas right now, until we get the likes of Pelkas, Cynic, and we don't have that difference make off the bench, and I think that's why there was a big margin in the scoreline necessarily. Because they've got the players there that can change a game, whereas we're waiting for that essentially.
That's it. It was essentially a game too far for the squad at the moment with what we've got essentially. And having this full week off with no cup, looking back, going out to Bradford became an even better thing in the end because we managed to have a week off this week and some players have been able to sort of catch up and we get some players back.
I wanted to talk about both the wing backs, to be fair. So obviously Louis Coyle came in for quite a bit of criticism from quite a few fans. I don't personally think he had necessarily a bad game. Like Tom said, I think sometimes when you're playing in this kind of system that we've got, and one of the biggest criticisms we used to have under McCann's system was the wingers never really used to track back and support the fullback. We got away with it in League One because of the lower level of quality that we were facing. But when you're coming up against ex-Premier League players and teams with big wage budgets like West Brom, who can really cause you some damage, you can't be leaving your fullback isolated like that because they are going to get pulled out of position and left in very precarious areas, leaving big gaps on the edge. I thought I'll ask you, Will. Do you think Louis Coyle? I mean, obviously, there's rumours of Cyrus Christie coming in, Lavinier. I think that's how you pronounce it, from Tottenham as well. There was Jeremy Ngakia at one point for the right back situation. Do you think Louis Coyle's going to be say if we brought any of these players in, do you think he's going to be the one who's staying in the team? I'd assume so, given the captaincy, or do you think maybe we're trying to find somebody more suited for a balanced wing back role?
I think initially whoever comes in is going to be on the bench, and then depends on how Coyle continues from there. But like Tom said, I think the thing is, when you're at fullback, you also do need help from who's in front of you as well. And he didn't really have any support whatsoever that helped him. So a lot of the times he was in situations where he had to defend two people, but he could only pick one. So he was, as a result, a lot of the times he would cut inside more and defend the one, leaving the one out wide open. But it would have been the same the other way around. If he'd gone out wide, there would have been a big gap with someone between the centre back and the full back. So he didn't really have he couldn't really win in that regard. But I think whoever comes in, I think if this Cyrus Christie does happen, I think he'll probably be, if he's here in time, on the bench for Coventry. I think he'll stick with Cole as his captain until something happens. I suppose, or maybe a run of form suggests he shouldn't be in the squad.
I think that's the reason why Greaves is the vice captain.
I do as well.
There's going to be a situation where Coyle is dropped, not because of his performances, but because we've got a big, there's going to be a big fixture schedule coming up. We're going to, a tight fixture schedule, so we're going to have to rotate our team, and ultimately that's why we're going to have 2 players in each position to sort of fight for that spot. And the thing is with Cyrus Christie, I think it looks like he's the one that's coming in, as reported on Twitter. I think what he brings that Coyle doesn't is that attacking threat. Saw him last season with Swansea, he scored a couple of goals. I think Nathaniel on Twitter, he's made that compilation already, the goal compilation. But that's what he sort of brings, that attacking threat, that pace. And
that's it, yeah.
What's been said about Cyrus Christie compared to Coyle is that he can get back, perhaps he's got a bit more pace. So like in these situations, like we faced against West Brom, where the winger was sort of breezing past, well, not breezing past, but sort of getting past him and getting balls into the box, perhaps Cyrus Christie could have stopped that. He comes with this sort of track record where he's played for Fulham, I think, in 4 seasons. I think he only played like 50-odd games, so I think we can't expect him to come in and start every week. He has his troubles, but I think at 29, vastly experienced in the Championship, being promoted twice with Fulham, is exactly what we need in that position. And he'll offer Coyle some great competition, and I think that's what we've been crying out for, really. Sort of that competition for him, so he doesn't sort of take his foot off the gas, thinking I'm in here every week because there's no one else. Now Cyrus Christie's come in, not only will it strengthen the quality of the squad, but it'll also strengthen the players around him because his experience. That's what we ultimately need in defence.
Yeah, I agree. I think because the thing is with Callum Elder as well. I wanted to ask you both about him because the general assumption obviously is that Brandon Fleming will be the first choice left back this season, but I think Callum Elder's start this season has been quite good, and I think he had quite a good game at West Brom. I think we saw a side to Callum Elder's game that we've not seen since League One, where he was really pushing himself to be in those attacking positions, like you've just described, Christie, where it can be offensively more of a threat, offer more goal threat, trying to put the ball in the box for people. That pass where he got through on goal and it was unlucky, the save onto the bar. We haven't seen that from Elder in a while. And do we think he's maybe staking his claim for that first team spot at the minute?
I think he's played himself into that situation. I think this season he was written off. And he's come back and he's putting some solid performances, to be fair. So we know going forward that Callum Elder's not a quality player at this level that he's going to challenge towards the top end of the Championship, but he's an honest player. I think he's shown the side to his game they haven't seen, like you said there. I think there's been situations this season when sort of he's a pacey winger's been coming at him and he's managed to block the cross. He's put in some solid defensive performances, and that's what you want. I think when you play a 4, we mentioned it before, I think that when you play a 4 at the back, Callum Elder is who you want to play. Whereas at a 5 at the back, I think Fleming going forward is better in terms of putting crosses into the box, and he's more of an attacking fullback, and that's why it's good now if Cyrus Christie does come in. He offers that sort of versatility where, like, you wouldn't want Coyle playing in a wing back formation. You'd rather have Cyrus Christie because what he brings going forward and the pace up and down. Because the thing is, with a wing back formation, you get less protection from the people ahead of you. So I think you need someone that can defend 2 men at once in that situation. So I think what we're doing is good because we've got 2 different types of fullbacks on both sides.
Yeah, I think it's testament to the recruitment. I think a lot of people from the outside, especially if they're not all City fans, could probably look at all the players that were signing and go, I've never even heard of half of them, or they've never played in the Championship, whatever. But look at Estepinian and Tete, for example.
Yeah.
They've sort of just straight away acclimatized to this league. Estepinian is very physical. He's a thorn in the defender's side. He's constantly working, constantly running in behind, constantly asking questions. Tete, who's playing on the wing at the minute, He's being physical. He's holding his back up to the defenders. He's bringing players into the game. Something that we needed from Eves last season that he did occasionally, but we didn't get in a consistent form. Tete is currently doing, but is like a wide target forward kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then you've got your like Satufan, you've got Siri, you've got Figueiredo, you've got a bit of championship experience in there. Woods now, Christie if he comes in.
Baxter
I think
as well.
Baxter as well. We've recruited in a sense that we've realised that the squad the last few years has been very thin. We've had like a solid starting 11, couple of options from the bench, but then mostly academy backup. And now we're trying to build an actual squad so that if we have to change system, we have to change formation, we have to be more offensive, more defensive. We've got those options. And they seem to all be... I know we haven't seen half of them play because of injuries, but at the moment, it's looking very good.
I would say we're recruiting like a team that's just had its owners changed to someone who actually gives a shit about football.
Yeah. Certainly not. You wouldn't be going... On the islands, you wouldn't be going for Cyrus Christie. It's the sort of signing that, you make if you are going to push towards the playoffs. I mean, saw on Twitter that Cyrus Christie's last two clubs have finished 15th and 17th in the league, but I think that's not a reflection of him as a player. I think he can come into this squad. He's still, in the twilight years of his career, 29, 30, I think he's still got a lot more to give at this level from what I've seen. So I think, that's a great signing, I'd say. And it's one that you wouldn't expect the club to make, before. So it's like, it shows the change in recruitment style. And I think it shows that not only can we shop abroad, like you've said there with Oscar and, Tete, but we can also shop for the best players at this level. And I think, this season, if we don't go up this season, we've got a good chance in the following season, I think, if we keep the squad together.
Yeah.
I think, obviously, we've mentioned about Tufan going off injured, and he's going to be a huge miss because of how influential he's been in the middle of the park since the beginning of the season and how much offensive threat we seem to have with him in the team. And we don't really seem to have that similar mould to replace him at the minute because of obviously the 12, 13 injuries that we've got, 14 now, I think, now that we've signed the Salah that's injured. But Ryan Woods obviously came on for his debut, and as you both mentioned already, his debut was fairly solid. He's not really pulled many trees up since he was at Brentford, but do we maybe think like he's looked at what's going on here, seen this as an opportunity to reinvent himself and sort of prove what he can do? Because I think when he was on against West Brom from the snippets I saw coming on, because he essentially got chucked in the deep end, didn't he? Tufan went off injured early, and it's like, hey, here's your debut, get on. And he had to try and make a difference, and he did very well.
He probably made his debut, but it wasn't going to be in the first half.
Yeah, so he's got his debut a lot sooner than probably expected. But did you like what you saw from him so far then, Will? Do you think he's looking like a worthy addition?
Well, yeah, I think he's looking like a good solid addition to the team. Like I said before, I think his passing was decent. He moved around. His work rate was pretty good. I think he's essentially replaced. It's weird saying this. I think he's replacing what Honeyman would have been in this team if we'd kept him, essentially. Sort of the backup midfielder who will come on after probably an hour or so to replace like Tufan or Seri, and sort of shore up the midfield and sort of, while the teams are tired, try and press on them a bit more.
Yeah, they've wanted a player that's solid, dependable, probably not going to massively make a difference, like kind of what Tufan would do, but a player that you know what you get from him and you know what he's going to offer us in the games that he plays, and he's worthy backup rather than relying on somebody like, for example, an Andy Cannon, who perhaps maybe is at a level higher than maybe he should be at, but he's going to have both the application and that sort of quality technique to actually compete in this midfield and be a worthy rotation option for the likes of Slater, for the likes of Seri, that we're going to have to inevitably have when we get more injuries as the season goes along. Hopefully not many more. But yeah, so 5-2 defeat, unbeaten run ended, but we're sat in 6th after the run of fixtures that we've had. I don't think many City fans would have predicted that. No, I certainly wouldn't have done.
I think most fans going into Norwich, Burnley, West Brom would have taken 4 points.
Yeah, I certainly would have done, yeah. 4 points, that's good. What I want to say, a question I want to ask is, obviously we've got all these injuries at the minute. There's going to be healthy competition once they all come back, and obviously we know how good of a quality player Seri is. We saw it in the first game. And then Alfie Jones came into proceedings and he's done well. But in terms of that midfield, there's so many options there. Like, who would you start? If everyone's fully fit, what's your midfield three? I think I've spoken about this. It's hard to decide because to me it depends on what game, what team you're coming against. I mean, I'd like Alfie Jones in there with Slater and Tufan, but then Seri misses out. And then you'd also like Seri playing next to Slater and having Tufan, but then you don't want to drop Slater for, Seri and having Jones, Seri and Tufan. It's like, I think Tufan's 100% in there for me when he's fully fit because of what he brings. But then it's them other two spots. I think Seri's, given the quality player he is.
I think Tufan and Seri are guarantees. It's between Jones and Slater in Shotter's mind. I have no clue who I'd pick.
The only reason I like Jones more, not necessarily more than Slater, but I like him in there is because the sort of physical presence and stuff. I did cry out for us to sign a holding midfield, but I think with the options we've got now, even Ryan Woods, he can play in that position. I don't think it's a position where we need to improve, whereas obviously right back that we're going for now is a position we need to improve more. But I think it's something worth thinking about. Like, I think it's good to have this sort of dilemma when, as a manager, like you've got all these players to choose from, but it's like picking your best three can sometimes be the hardest part. So it's like,
Yeah, no, it is a tough question. I think, and it shows you how far we've come this season, because if you think back to the last 2 or 3 years, the starting 11 was pretty much guaranteed if they were all fit. Whereas this season, I think and obviously we're not at the same level as Man City, but if you use Man City, Liverpool, and clubs like that as an example, if you're going to be successful over the course of a season, you don't necessarily have a strongest 11. You just kind of you tinker, like you just mentioned, as the game needs, kind of thing. So away from home against maybe a Burnley, for example. I know we've already done that, but hypothetically, if we were to play Burnley away from home, you would probably more likely play Alfie Jones as a holding midfielder to be a bit more defensive than maybe a more offensive player, because at home you can afford to maybe have a more offensive midfield, and it's just all about those rotation options, because to me, you've got to have, like we say, at least two players for each position that are just as good as each other and can be just as impactful. So having those options, having this squad that we've got, despite all the injuries that we've got at the minute, is so promising, because if we're in the position we're in now and we've still got so many more players to add into the mix, it just gives you so much optimism. It's like, for me, we lost 5-2 to West Brom, and normally I'm all doom and gloom, but I was like, I'm not bothered. I'm really not bothered, because I've seen enough from us to know that in the coming games we'll have enough about us and we'll be fine, and we'll be, I imagine, in at least a top 10 team this season. To me, very very early, very early to be saying, obviously, because we could lose the next 6. But at the moment, it's looking good. I don't think there's much more to add to the West Brom game, other than obviously the goals that went in. I don't think there's much argument on the penalty. Would you both a bit disappointed with the pen? Do you think it was?
I haven't looked back, to be fair. I haven't looked back.
It was soft, but I'd have been upset. Yeah. I'd have expected it to be given against us, so I'd have been like,
yeah.
I think a lot. I mean, the Elder own goal was just very unlucky.
He couldn't do anything about that.
He could do about that. The Swift goal, I think Ingram's unsighted because of the players that are in front of him. The fair long goal
defending could be better on the Swift goal, but the fair long goal, no, could do nothing about that.
No, I mean, you could try and close him down quicker, but because I think there were 2 players that decided to try and close.
That's what we want from Christie, I think, isn't it? That's what we want from Christie. I've seen him banging 1 or 2 of them, but
the penalty, the 5th goal, sorry, the Dara O'Shea, I was quite disappointed, because I rewatched the highlights this morning just to double check if I could have any criticism on it, and I think, but because he was marked by both Greaves and Figueiredo, and all 3 of them sort of just were kind of crouched down at like sort of mid-level, and it sort of hit O'Shea and went in. So it was another goal where it's just messy, sort of unorganised.
Would you say our set pieces of defending has improved? Because that was last season, and seasons gone by, even in League One season, I think we conceded like 10 goals from set pieces. Do you think that's still an area that we need to improve on? I think there's always room for improvement. I think
there's always room for improvement.
It's an area where, like, it was an area we struggled with, but we've added height and physicality to the team in terms of Teta. You've got Figueiredo in there now, Jones, Greaves. So I think we've got the height to deal with this sort of. Where last season you'd have Doherty in there, you'd had Slater, you've got these smaller players, but now we've got that physical presence more. I think last season we got bullied.
I trust this side to defend set pieces more than I did last season.
Yeah,
So when they're
season.
when they're lining up for a corner or a free kick now, I've got more confidence that we're going to clear it than I did last season. Whether or not that's been from the tactical setup or just because the personnel we've got. But I just think that we've been okay defending them so far. Like I said, maybe that West Brom 5th goal was a bit poor. 2 centre halves should really have probably dealt with that. But it's looking like, when they get them partnerships sorted properly and we get a consistent 11 who understand each other and whatnot, it'll get better. And hopefully we don't see a Mallik Wilks marking, centre backs sort of situation. I mean, obviously we're not going to see Wilks this season, but I think to me, I don't know what kind of detail managers. Some will go into more detail defending set pieces than others. I personally would be identifying you're marking him.
Yeah, that's
depending on man marking of a zonal, definitely.
Yeah, Silva used to do zonal, didn't he? It used to drive me insane, but I was never a fan of zonal. I think it's strange. Space doesn't score goals, players do. But anyway, so we've got a couple of transfer news. We've got obviously the departure of Mallik Wilks. There will be no more Wilks rants on the podcast from after this episode, unless he comes back to haunt us in the cup.
Guaranteed to score against us in the cup.
A move that obviously suited all parties. Do we all agree, or is there a bit of
yes?
I wish he'd. No. What's your thoughts on Wilks leaving, Tom?
I thought it's the right time. We've seen him. We've discussed him before. I think in terms of his attitude, he's not a player wanting around the squad. I think he thinks he's better than what he is. And last season he didn't tear up any trees, and now the quality we've got coming in, Cynic, you've got Alia, Teta. There's just no place from the squad. I think League One is his level. That's been identified. I did comment on that when he did first come into the squad, the second half of that championship season, he impressed me. One of the bright sparks of that season, and then did obviously really well in League One, but he's never pushed on from that. And it's a shame, but ultimately I think it's the right time to let him go. You've got to get this sort of dead weight off the squad, this deadwood, if you want to sort of push towards promotion, and I think it was the right decision to make.
Do you think maybe it's a case of, do you think, Will, if last season Wilks would have been fit for let's say, 35 plus games, that perhaps he would have found some form and been in the mix this season, and maybe the injuries last season curtailed him to the point where he got out of the team and couldn't get back in, and now was just like, well, fair enough. I mean, it says more about his attitude if that's true, because he'd rather leave. Yeah,
you've kind of already taken it from me there. I think it's hard to say, because he's in league at the end of that championship disaster, he was our best player by a mile. In League One, despite I think sometimes his attitude being an issue in League One, he was fantastic at League One level, and obviously he's top scorer. He was a superb player. But even when he had those every now and then appearances in the league since last season, he still didn't look like he gave a shit.
Which obviously
it was the same when he's appeared this season. I mean, it wasn't a league game, but that Bradford game, Jesus Christ, that is a person who did not want to be on the pitch at all.
Yeah, it reminds me of one of my favourite friends who I play 6SR with, Harvey. Real lazy. Just don't run.
If you're watching this, Harvey.
He is that. That's why I've said it.
It is a shame, because he is clearly a lot of talent in Wilks, and he could easily do it. I think at championship level, he just doesn't seem to apply it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all knew that he had maybe a bit more of a immature attitude about him, and he's these kind of players with those attitudes will be fine so long as they're playing well and it's going their way, which we saw in League One. Barnsley fans were saying to us the same things we're saying to Sheff Wednesday. So they'll probably get a player who scores 15 plus goals and tell us we're all lying. And then, the moment he finds himself out the team, they might do the same will.
I have enjoyed Sheffield Wednesday fans on like Twitter and stuff saying, we're still in your best player. Yeah. It's like, he's our 5th choice fucking winger. What are you on about?
Yeah. At the moment, it is.
Why.
But they'll be looking at it from a League One perspective. The last time he was in League One, he scored 22 goals and won the title. So, if you're Sheff Wednesday fans, it's probably a very good signing.
Oh, from a League One point of view, it's a great signing. I'm surprised Grant didn't try and take him back to Peterborough. I really am.
He probably did at some point, but it might have been in the earlier part of the window where we maybe had a bit more of a higher price tag on him than we could have asked for now after seeing how he's been performing. But no, I mean, obviously, regular viewers of the podcast will know we've not all been his biggest fan on the majority of his Hull City career. I mean, he obviously goes with the best wishes, and we all thank him for the season in League One.
I was going to say, you're saying that, Anne, but you fucking hated him.
I did despise him. I didn't want us to sign him in the first place, but but then again, would we have won the title without him? So you've got to thank him for that League One season. You have to. You got to swallow your pride.
The thing is, after that Lincoln game, obviously he scored the winner in that game. And after that game, they went back to the Cottingham training ground. Me and my pals were there. There was all drinking beers and that, and Wilks just couldn't even drink a dark fruits, like a fruity cider. He was like spitting it all on the floor, just like trying to drink it. He didn't like it. You could tell he didn't drink, but yeah.
I do wonder how much different it would have been that League One season. And I was about to say, but I've just seen a comment on it about. I wonder if fans had been in the grounds, if people would have liked him more because he was obviously scoring for fucking fun.
Well, it's the same thing with McCann, wasn't it? Like the fans.
I think it's the opposite with McCann. I think he was helped by the fact there was no fans there.
Yeah. It's that effect, isn't it? If we'd have been in the stadium, we'd probably have more affliction towards Wilks because he's, like we say, when you've got a player that scores loads of goals, they are the club hero, aren't they? That's what the focus is on, and I do think that if he'd have had less injuries last season and more chance to try and find his groove, that it might have been different. Because if you listen to the interviews and everything from after the League One season, where he was saying, like Hull's his new adopted city and that I'm not from here, I'm from Hull kind of thing. He obviously saw his long-term future here. So there was at some point between his injury last season and his return when obviously Shotta was manager, something changed. Whether or not the club told him that he was unlikely to be part of the future plans. I think it kind of contradicts what Shotta was saying, though, because he wanted him to stay, didn't he? But you just don't know what happened, and maybe Wilks just isn't willing to fight for a place. He wants to be that superstar.
I think all managers want all players to stay, to be fair. You always want a player to stay.
If you've got the option to see a player leave and replace them.
No, I think it's more a case of you don't want any player in your squad to think that they don't want them to think that the club's not a place that they want to be. You want them to think there's a good thing about the club, is I think the point.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. And then obviously it will come down to that player's personality, whether or not they see that as, if a manager sits down with Wilks and says, I want you to stay, but your play time, going to be a bit less and you need to fight for your place a bit more. There's two ways he can react to that. One is, all right, fair enough, knuckle down, try and get the best version of yourself back. Or be like, nah, screw this, I'd rather go somewhere else where
I think you get certain players in football that like to be the main man. I think Wilks is that sort of guy.
Definitely.
In League One season, he was the main man. And then we got obviously promoted, and then the likes of Ryan Longman came in, who sort of took that position. And then, he'll move to Wednesday now and expect to be the main man. And if he doesn't get his way, he'll throw his toys out the pram again. And that's just the sort of player he is. You can't change that, his attitude. But you can change someone's attitude, but Wilks is someone, to me, that you don't think can change yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's still young, so he's got time to change it. He's maybe got a bit of that naivety still in him that he needs to just kind of iron out and apply himself a bit more. But there's definitely a player in there, and he'll probably do very well for Wednesday this season. And I'm no doubt they'll be telling us he's the best player, that we shouldn't let him go, kind of thing. But good luck to him, and he's gone. So Benedict has come on. What do you make of what happened between Wilks and Baz on Twitter? Yeah, he's gone now, but does that prove he's got a funny attitude? I mean, it's just kind of, he didn't have to do it, did he? To me, that's my opinion on it. I'd rather not. It's weird because obviously Baz has got a job to do. He's going to report on these things. That's literally his livelihood. And if Wilks has said I want to leave, and then Baz has reported it as he's asked to leave, and Wilks has decided to look at that change of wording and say I never asked. That to me is just a bit petulant, and I just think that kind of he didn't need to do that. It was unnecessary. he's done that to get a reaction and probably try and put himself towards the Wednesday fans a bit more.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that, guys? Wilks and Baz?
I think Wilks knew what he was doing in the situation. You know, he knew he was going to. He's probably already signed for Wednesday at that point. He was just trying to sort of bait people in, thinking it was going to stay. He knew what he was doing. He knew that he could get a lot of reaction from it and traction. And like you say, the Wednesday fans would probably like what he was saying. But it's sort of a bit of humour, I guess. But I think, loads of people coming at Baz saying he's got it wrong and all that. I mean, he's only reported what he's saying, I think. So I don't know. It's one of them situations where, it's a bit petty, but,
Yeah. So we saw Wilks leave, and then we saw the confirmation of Salah Oulad M'Hand, Salah Adine, whatever variation of the name you want to call him.
Oulad M'Hand.
He has come from Arsenal on loan with a view to buy, which is a bit of an annoying topic for some Arsenal fans. They didn't really want him to have the chance to leave.
Yeah. It's a good sign,
which I think says, it's definitely a good sign about a young lad that's 19 now, I think. Obviously got a good potential. I know Mikel Arteta was saying that he's a really good player and really rated him and wanted him to stay. So a bit of a shame that he's signed injured. Do you think the club have we actually seen any information about what his injury is and how long he's going to be out for?
I've seen nothing personally.
I've seen mixed responses. People saying he's not injured, people saying he is. That's another reason why people are coming at Baz, because he's saying 1 minute he's not injured, then he is.
Thing is with Baz is he's not been at work this week.
Yeah.
So he can't.
I think when he's off work, a lot of journalists and stuff, they'll just won't go on Twitter. I think they'll just.
It's not just that. I think because the article that came out in the whole Daily Mail, suggested him back in the team this Saturday, but I have a feeling it was something that was written before he went away and before he found out he was injured.
Yeah, true. Because obviously sometimes when players sign, what they'll do is they'll prep the article in advance. So what he's done there is to save time, and knew that he was actually signing. He's got the go ahead to create the article, and then he's either forgot to edit out or it's gone out without without him ever seeing what's been put. So I think it's one of them where where it's lost in translation, I think.
Pretty much.
Someone reckons they've seen that it's an ingrown toenail. Nasty. I've just recovered from one of them.
Yeesh.
Absolute nightmare. I do 14-hour shifts, and walking on one of them is painful, I'll tell you. He looks like a very promising player, and hopefully he can be added to the squad. And it's not too serious an injury. I don't think we'd have signed him if it's a serious injury.
If it's an ingrown toenail, I imagine that's not going to be a long-term thing.
It'll be a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks, maybe month.
A discussion from one of my friend group here, Harvey's just commented, is the pre-match atmosphere. Basically, we said that it's not good enough, that it needs to be improved. Harvey's tweeted that Paul Woodford saying it needs to be improved, and that the music before the game don't really get you going and stuff. Like, back in the day, we used to play some, good tunes and stuff, and I thought the atmosphere, it got you building, but now it's a bit naff, I think. You don't really get that excitement before the game with the music that's being played. I think it can be improved, and he's got a good point. But I think that Paul Woodford's not willing to change things, so it's one of them.
To be honest, I don't get into the ground until right before kickoff anyway.
Yeah, so I only get in this season. I've got in 5 minutes before, but Harvey's one of them, it's getting an hour before. Do you know what I mean? So he's there listening to the music and that.
I think there's always been that divisive topic in it. We all love Wise Men Saying, and the fact that we sing it at games and stuff. It's amazing, but I don't like the fact that it's not sort of original to us. 3 or 4 other clubs use it.
Me and Rich from Tigers Blar had this conversation on Twitter not long ago about it. And I think we both agreed that it should be House Martins.
But we've tried it in the past, haven't we?
I don't get why it doesn't work, because it makes more sense.
Does it need to be a sped up version of the song, or would you keep it as the original one? Because I know that we've tried the original before, and it didn't really catch on. I don't know
if you need to have a sing-along. I think you just need to have songs that pump up the atmosphere.
Yeah, you do, man. Pump it end all on before the game, stuff like that. And Adagio for strings, you know what I mean? You need this sort of music, this feel-good music. You go to other grounds and stuff like that.
You don't need a sing-along. That's why I think it's something like going to the house, but something like Happy Hour, I think, would work.
Yeah, just more upbeat, sort of tempo, anticipating music kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what you want. I think years ago, 6-7 years ago, you'd have the Tigers burning bright, and the sort of the graphics that come on the screen.
It'd be like Chemical Brothers followed by that, and it's a build-up.
It gets you going. That's what I mean. That's what you want. But I think the club has to realise that the fans ultimately are the ones that should have the biggest say, because they're the ones that are experiencing it. But
I think they do. It's obviously
it's a process
over time.
Yeah, I mean, it's something we can all obviously try and reach out to various different groups or people to try and maybe get some form of communication going where we can say, look, the fans would prefer this to happen in games, and see if you can get it to happen. Because at the end of the day, if the SMC don't want to do it, there needs to be a valid reason to it, rather than just laziness kind of thing. If the fans want better atmosphere at match days, you want more fans in the ground. That's the way to do it, isn't it?
I think the atmosphere, to be fair, I do think for maybe younger fans, the atmosphere is probably the pre-match stuff's aimed right. That's the problem. It's mostly aimed at younger fans, which I've got no problem with, because we should be focusing on younger fans. But I don't think there's as much for everyone.
Yeah, it's struggle. That's what they would probably say. It's a struggle to accommodate the varying age ranges in the stadium, is what they'll say. But the people who have been the older generation will have experienced what we had before, so will obviously have been fans of it. The younger generation, all around all our age, would obviously think the same, and then the kids would grow up with it too. So it's just like almost a legacy thing. Go back to how it was, kind of thing. Similar. Yeah. Try and get that atmosphere building before kickoff, and then the north stand, east stand together will probably be at the lads straight away at kickoff. Opinions on the antisocial behaviour surrounding the club at the moment. Do
you think it's been? I think they've been over the top with certain things, like the Bristol City game. That statement that they brought out, I thought that was ridiculous. I think because one Bristol fan threw something, and then they were going at the fans. I think that could deter people from coming to the ground if they think, "Oh, it's antisocial behaviour." I think it's a load of nonsense, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both, because that Bristol one, I agree, and then the last game, it's Norwich, where we were all stood at the top of M4. The amount of lads who had clearly just moved and stuck up all the people's seats and didn't move. So there was like 3 people to every seat at the top of M4. And obviously it was well overcrowded. And then when we scored, it went well. You couldn't really celebrate because it was that full. And I think that's yeah, but 3 people to every seat is a bit dodgy.
I think it's one of them, innit? You've got to tailor your expectations. Football is a totally different entity to most things.
Like rugby, I think it's totally different.
I mean, obviously, there's a line. Like when fans are running onto pitch and assaulting players, that's bad. Bringing pyros into the stadium, chucking them into the stands or onto the pitch, that's bad. But if you're going to try and say that fans standing up, chanting towards each other, flicking V's, that's normal football behaviour. That's how it's always been. It's how it always will be. And trying to change that is only going to make things worse and make probably larger groups of fans try and act out in a worse way. And to me, they've got to have some sort of approach to it now, because I know that the clubs are under pressure from the EFL. It's the EFL and the police.
The FA as well. I think they're pushing this campaign to stop antisocial behaviour. But I think if you look at recent seasons, or even 10-15 years ago, it's no worse than it's ever been. There's always going to be antisocial behaviour in football, and you're never going to stamp it out. It's the same with, unfortunately, racism as well. That's something you're never going to stamp out. There's always going to be a couple of idiots that are racist in the ground.
That ruin the entire thing.
So, like, in terms of stamping it out, it's virtually impossible. You've just got to sort of, go with it.
I think the systems they've got in place work for things like that as well. People who have done anything racist in the stand are usually identified and banned anyway.
Yeah,
so obviously it happens.
When they're homophobic, when they're misogynist, it's the same as that. It's got better, but there's always still the idiots.
The thing is, I know someone that's been banned for just like going over the netting against Sheffield United, and then know someone that's banned for just throwing like toilet roll or something. It's like, I don't know, it's stupid. Sort of the stadium management company are quite strict when it comes to stuff like that. It's a bit ridiculous, really. At
least it isn't like it was at Burnley recently, where they banned a couple of fans for standing.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's the sort of, it's ridiculous now.
Well, I wonder how many fans in that north stand will be banned for standing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Full
There'd be about
standard.
4 fans in it.
I just think clubs are a sort of over it. I don't know what they've been threatened with by the FA or whatever governing body's pushing it, that, you know, they've got to try and get a control of whatever's going on, when realistically there's not much going on anyway. But the clubs seem to be overreacting and trying to go overboard. And
I do think Humberside Police, their track record isn't great either. I think they've always they've never been great with City.
Yeah, they're awful.
Yeah, I mean, you're never going to change football, sort of tradition, typical behaviour. That's football is as it is, and it always will be. And you know, that's why you have like your more atmospheric stands that are together, because you can focus more of your police energy onto that stand than you would the South. But just because they're an atmospheric stand also doesn't mean that they're going to be badly behaved. You're always going to get one or two. You probably get one or two in the West. I mean, you know, if they get mad and they chuck a bottle of champagne on pitch, you got to be careful, aren't you? But you're going to get one or two at every single game, aren't you? That are going to be a bit daft and go overboard. But considering from what I've seen and the statement that came out after Bristol City and things like that, it is massively blown out of proportion, because I don't actually think I've seen anything at the minute that you know could be determined really bad behaviour that would be newsworthy, really. But
I am looking forward to Sheffield United at the start of next month, because that will be an interesting.
There's West Up open right now, isn't they, as well? It's like,
for Sheffield United, yeah.
I don't see us selling that many up there, to be fair.
I don't, but I'm thinking about the away end will be full, so I'm wondering what it'll be like on either side of the away end.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Well, let's see if they're as strict as they are with the away tickets as they was with Forest, and try and identify any United fans and get them out. Not have the whole Leeds saga where we were battered 4-0 and the fans were just basically ejected from our stand and put into the away.
Yeah, they got away with it. I think sometimes like we've been escorted to our own ground before as well. Like when you go away, I went to Huddersfield away last season and we got escorted. They had horses out.
That all stemmed from that game back in Bruce's first season, where they essentially didn't let you. You were at the ground as soon as you got. So you could only go to the game on the coach. As soon as you got off the coach, you was escorted to the ground, and it was the same back. And there was a massive furore about it. I remember at the time.
Was that when George Boyd scored the winner?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, the West Yorkshire Police saga, that was horrible. Yes. Yeah, because they basically they said that there was a lot of the long-standing history of violence between the two clubs. But
there never has been, ever.
I don't think there was, no. I certainly don't remember any in the League One games that we'd played in the past. I mean, we got battered at their ground, so I don't think we were probably in the mood. So I don't think we've got any other questions at the minute. Maybe a complaint about the tannoy system, but it's been poor since he installed that. It's been garbage.
Awful.
When they used to try and do concerts there, it was terrible as well. The sound quality.
I don't think I've heard the team news once in the ground, or when someone scored, or you can never hear what they're saying ever.
It is one of the worst tannoy systems in the country, I think, that stadium.
The thing is, my dad relies on like hearing the team news because he'll get there quite early and he'll go into the ground. He doesn't have social media or anything like that. He doesn't have internet on his phone or anything. So like he can't hear the team news properly, so he gets pissed off. He gets pissed off at me, like, what am I meant to do? I don't know, I'm not controlling it, do you know what I mean? But
get on the blower to Paul.
Paul Woodford needs to sort it.
Sort it out, Tom. I mean, we've had him on the pod. It'd be see if he could come back on, yeah. Right, we'll look forward to the Coventry game then, because obviously they're next up on Saturday. They've not actually played much football this season, only the 2 games because of their infamous home pitch problems. I think it's something to do with, is it rugby sevens or something?
Combination of the Commonwealth Games and the rugby Wasps.
Yeah, so they can't actually play their home games. And
I think this past weekend they actually did start fixing the pitch. So I think their next home game they're actually going to be at home.
Yeah, it's a tough one to predict, though, I think, this situation, because they've not played. Obviously, they're only playing 2 games, mean they've played a lot less football than us. But is that a hindrance, or would it go in their favour?
I think that sharpness, could play a part. But then it's one of them games where, like, you look at City, you think, the bottom of the league, they play 2 games, you think City should roll these over, but we've had injuries and typical City, you lose this game, but hopefully, get past that and, we'll get a win, but it's one of them. If we had a fully fit squad, I'd be very confident we'd get a result, or we'd get a win. But it's that doubt sort of creeps into your mind when, a team's played 2 games. They could come here and just tear up, do you know what I mean?
That's it.
Yeah.
They might be fit physically, but they've got no match sharpness in comparison.
Yeah.
It's like both of them they have their advantages, but they have their negatives as well. Because the injuries have really made it really awkward to try and predict anything. So I'm expecting someone to get injured tomorrow on the training ground.
But is the training ground getting an unnecessary amount of hit?
Yes, of course it is.
Yeah, because
half the injuries have happened during matches.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And Salah wasn't even at the club when he got injured.
The thing is, it's not the training ground.
It's not the best training ground. No, it's not the best.
The pitches, the training ground's fine. The pitches at the training ground are fine. What everyone thinks about, I think it's not good. It's because it's small and it's the facilities outside of the pitches that are probably lower than a championship club would normally have. The actual pitches are fine.
Yeah, so I wouldn't blame it on the training ground. To be fair.
I wouldn't. It might have affected some people, but I don't think it's not an issue like people are trying to make out it is.
Three of our players who joined the club and they'd already been injured, so it's one of them.
Yeah.
So
Coventry's last 2 games was a 1-1 draw against Sunderland, and then they lost 3-2 against Millwall, despite being 2-0 up. George Lehman scored in that game as well. But they from watching the preview episode last night, Nathaniel and Mark from the Sky Blues TV podcast, he was saying that they were in control of that Coventry game, and it was just a case of once Hamer got sent off in the 67th minute and it was 2-2, the backs were up against it, but they were very wasteful. They missed a lot of opportunities, and they probably should have had more from the Sunderland game too, kind of thing. So it sounds like they've just been a bit wasteful, and they've got a lot of threat in their side. There's a couple of players who may not be there at the end of the transfer window. Callum O'Hare and Victor Gyökeres, players like that. But they were playoff contenders last season, and obviously they beat us at home last season, but when we beat them 2-0 away, kind of ending that little bit of run for the top 6, I think. But they've got a team that's capable of being up there, so they're definitely a threat. Would we take a draw from this game?
Always would take a draw, but I would rather being a home win.
Yeah, that's Michael Owen there. But to be fair, our home form this season, it's parallel to last season. I think away from home. Away from home last season, we played with more freedom. Whereas at home now, I think with the bumper crowd and
since Jota came in, the home form's really improved.
It sort of switched around, but I think tomorrow a fast start's necessary. After that 5-2 loss, we need to pick ourselves up. I think it'll be good to see how the players react. It's our first loss with quite a few new players in our team. We need to see how the players react, and I think it's important we get on the front foot early. Because obviously Coventry are a good side. They've got some good attacking players, and they can cause us a threat. I watched this game against Sunderland, and it was unfortunate not to sort of take that game away from Sunderland. Towards the end, I think they grew into it as the game went along. So I think we have to be mindful of that. But I think if I was going to predict anything, I'd say 1-0 to City.
I'd like a 1-0. Another clean sheet would be nice. Another Estepinian goal as well would be good. Although I do want to see Tete get his first goal, because I think his work has been a bit underappreciated.
I'll keep saying it every single week. Jacob Greaves goal, please.
Are you one of these that puts money on every week, Jacob
Absolutely.
Greaves? How much you put on a father?
Not usually. I usually just put a couple of quid on because it's actually such high odds. You only have to put a couple of quid on in your fan.
What is it, 33-1? 40-1?
Last week, it was 33-1 to score any time. So to score first, it was like 65, I think, to 1.
Yeah, something ridiculous. Yeah, I know a few people do it. There's someone that goes in Botanic, he puts 20 quid on.
Jesus.
10 each way, I think it is, or something. So if he scores first, he gets more money, I think, or something ridiculous.
Yeah, my uncle's put
So
one on.
he's lost a lot of money then, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't hate Greaves. He reacted
Yeah,
badly to the contract signing.
Well, because we're playing Coventry, I'll take Greaves having an absolute weldy off the line clearance as well.
Yeah, just like he did last year. That was mad, that wasn't it? So I think we're pretty restricted in terms of the team selection. Although a certain Ryan Longman's back, is Sari in contention, or is it? No, it's Smith.
No, he's
Smith
probably
and
going to be
Longman.
back next game.
Smith and Longman back in contention.
Smith and Longman are the two.
So do we keep the same team that faced West Brom, or are we adding Longman into the mix?
We can't keep the same team for a start because Tufan's not there.
Well, Wood's in for Tufan, but
I imagine it'd be Woods. I'd be tempted to put Longman straight in. I know Nathaniel will be loving me saying that. I'd be tempted to put him in for Williams.
Straight off I thought Williams played quite well against West Brom, or is it just because Longman offers a bit more of a goal threat?
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah, because obviously, to be fair, this adds on to Benedict's question. So obviously, we're going to be missing Tufan. So it's where do we find that creativity? Where do we find that goal threat now? Because the midfield three is likely to going to be Slater, Woods, and Jones. You're probably looking at
Woods will be the creative one out of the three.
Woods, being a bit more advanced, maybe, because Slater's a bit more box to box, isn't he? Although he can play a bit more offensively, Slater, I think he's definitely got that in his tank. And then it's whether or not Williams keeps his place for Longman. And I can't imagine Tyler Smith is getting in. Unless
he'll be on the bench, probably come on in the second half.
Unless he wants to go to a two up top, but then I imagine it'd be Tete and Estepinian.
You can't drop Tete there.
Their partnership's sort of blossoming at the minute. Yes. 3 assists and 4 goals.
That's what you want. I think Tete's, when he came in, you expected him to be an out-and-out striker, but I think he's shown that he can play out wide. I think that's where he's suited best, I think, in terms of...
Yeah, he's been mentioned before. That's where he plays for Ghana.
Yeah, but Bully's the fullback. He's 6'5", strong. I think he's quick as well.
He's got surprising pace for his size.
Yeah, I think you've got Oscar, who's got a very good movement, strong, gets into the box at all opportunities. So you've always got that physical presence in there. But then you've got Tete as well, out wide, commits defenders. I think if you had Tete up front, I think he could get phased out the game. But I think out wide, he's always got a chance to receive the ball and drive at defenders. So I think that suits him well. I'm glad he's settled in well.
I think the worry is, isn't it, that we've not actually created that many chances in every game we've played this season, and then we've lost arguably our most creative player, and we're going to have to hope that Woods has a similar effect. He might do.
Against West Brom, we did create a few chances still as well, and he has got it in his locker. He had it at Brentford, so it's not like out of the realms of possibility.
Because I'm sure we're bottom of the league for shots on goal or something. So we're, as well as we're doing, we're not actually creating that many chances. We're just being very. Our conversion rate is obviously very high with the chances we do have.
You look at the teams we've played as well.
Yeah, that's true. Obviously, a bit more back to the wall against teams like Burnley, Norwich, and West Brom. Preston away have shown. I think they've got a record. Is it 5 clean sheets at the beginning of the season for the first time or something?
They've conceded one goal, haven't they?
One goal, but they've conceded none, I think. They've
conceded 0 and
conceded none, yeah.
Ridiculous, that.
Which is just so strange.
I bet their fans are so excited watching that football.
Every game's so boring.
Even Turley Pulis sounds like fucking Guardiola compared to that.
But that shows again that that's another hard team to break down because no one else has scored against them. So maybe we're being a bit harsh on the shots thing, and maybe this is the game that it all comes together and we have 15 odd shots, maybe score 5 goals ourselves. Yet to see. So we'll move on to that then. So score predictions. I said 1-1 on the preview last night. I think everybody said a draw on the preview episode. I'll come to you first, Tom. What do you think the score's going to be?
I said 1-0, mate. 1-0 City.
Oh, yeah, 1-0, yeah.
Well, Hull City, in case you didn't know.
And what about you?
I'm carrying 1-0 as well. I'll go with Greaves, as I always do, because eventually it'll be correct.
1-0.
Ian thinks 2-2.
In about 2029. He'll be correct when he's playing for England. He'll score first then.
3-1. I'd like that. Yeah, I mean, to me, I don't think a draw would be the end of the world. I think we've got to be fairly realistic, haven't we, with the current situation of the squad and injuries and everything, that we've got to kind of take what we can get at the minute until some players come back. And it sounds like Siri's not far from coming back. And like we said, we've got Longman coming back into the mix now, so we can see what he adds into this system. We've got Tyler Smith. See, the thing is with Smith is I can see there's a player in there, but he's never going to get a run of games to show it, I don't think.
Unless his injuries.
I was impressed with him against Bristol City. I thought he was a bright player. You know, in terms of pressing, that's what Shotter wants from you, pressing from the front. But in terms of if we're going to carry on playing the 4-3-3, or 4-2-3-1, what you want to call it, I mean, you know, Tyler Smith's not going to get in there, unfortunately, but it's good that we've got that option off the bench to come on. You know, so it's good.
A 7-0.
Don't listen to him against them. You don't want to know what against Burnley. He put us to win 7-0 on a bet. He's such an idiot.
That'd have been decent odds.
It's not ridiculous, like 5,000 to 1 or something.
Well, so all the comments are basically saying the same: wins or draw.
Which means we'll lose.
Which means we'll lose. Yeah, I mean they're capable of beating us. I just think maybe the fact that they've played 2 games, and us needing a reaction after the West Brom game, it will be interesting to see, like Tom said, how this set of players react after a setback like that. But to me, they would have looked back at the game, I imagine, with Shotter at training and said, you know, you created chances, you looked fairly decent. We lost our most creative player in the first half and we still look pretty good. So, you know, give yourselves more credit kind of thing. Go out there and fight for some, you know, injuries provide opportunities for players to get that first place nailed down, doesn't it? So, you know, put yourselves out there, try and win a place so that, you know, the returning players can't really get in there. I don't know if the midfield is the same situation because I think Siri and Tufan probably contractually will be playing whenever they're available.
The thing is, in terms of that winger spot, though, Longman now coming back in, I think he has to replace Williams. Since injuries, Williams has had that opportunity, I think, that he's not had previously to show what he can do. And I don't think he's done enough for me to prove that he's, you know, able to keep his spot. I think he played against Bradford in the Cup, wasn't really, you know, he did all right, but I think the whole team wasn't very good that day. And then he's had chances after that. And I think Longman coming back in, he's someone that can, as we saw last season, offer protection to the fullbacks. I think he's an important player in terms of what we have now before Alia comes back. And then, you know, Longman will be someone that'll come off the bench and stuff. So I think it's Longman's chance now to, should he start, to prove that he's still able to get into this team. So I think, you know, last season we saw like flashes of brilliance. You know, some of the goals he scored. You know, the Bournemouth goal. You know, Everton in the Cup. I think, you know, he's capable of producing that. It's just didn't do it consistently.
Coventry.
Yeah, exactly. It was a great goal as well, top corner. I think if you can sort of show them that, you know, piece of brilliance on a more regular basis, he'll be a good, you know, good asset to have in the team. I think I saw a quote. I think. Was it Adrian or Shot, I think, said that they expect more to come from him. Or was it Tan Kesler, I think, said, you know, he's going to be an important player this season. So hopefully Tan's right about that.
Well, yeah, because after it was confirmed permanent from loan, it kind of dropped off a bit. So hopefully he can recover that form he had when he was on loan.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what he can do in this with better players around him. Because obviously we saw how good he can be. Obviously when he was on loan last season, and then after the permanent transfer, like we say, his form kind of dropped off a cliff. But he's still only young. He's very versatile.
He's 22, I think.
So he can play anywhere amongst the front three. He's played in the wing back for us last season. He was fairly good at that as well. So he's going to be proved to be a very useful squad player, and he's a definite goal threat. And you know, we struggled to score goals last season because we didn't create that many chances or have that many goal scorers. But he showed, like you say, he's got an eye for a bit of a wonder goal. So another sort of prong to the attack in essence, because from what we've got with Estepinian, you know, he's going to run in behind, ask questions, cause problems, and then you've got Longman who could maybe, you know, smash it into top bins from 25 yards. So it's exciting because I want to kind of see that Longman that we saw on loan last season. I want to see him, you know, running at defenders, causing problems, getting the ball to the byline, cutting inside, shooting.
The thing is, last season he played a lot on the right, and people seem to think on Twitter, and I do as well. Seem to think he's better on the left at cutting in. I think he's not someone that breaks down the wing. He does get crossed into the box, but I ain't seen enough from him to show he's got that quality to deliver for Estepina. But I think playing him on the left, much more of a threat. I think he's not going to dislodge Tete. That's the problem.
That's it. You can't move Tete from the left.
I think I'd like to see him start on the right on Saturday if he's ready to go again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean the good thing is about Longman being on the right. If he's encouraged or he's been working on his crossing, it's another thing that could be another source of goals, because if he can get to the byline and cross balls in, you've got Tete who's going to be at the far post, and you've got Oscar in the middle to pick up the pieces if it the ball bobbles around a bit. So we've got that aerial threat in the box now, multiple aerial threats, and if he can sort of work on the end product similar to Aliar, because I think Aliar's very good at running at defenders, but his end product is just lacking at the minute, and obviously that's going to come with time, and because we've signed relatively very young players that have still got a lot of the game to learn. They were focused on one aspect, and now they've got to sort of broaden their skill set. And Longman's one of these players, I think, that's a bit of a maverick, because he can be whatever kind of player he wants to be. If he wants to be a goal scorer and play through the middle, he probably won't be doing that here. But he looks very effective at coming in as a winger. And like you say, it'd have been nice to maybe see him play off the left. But last season, he wasn't going to do that with KLP. And this season, at the moment, he's not going to do that with Tete. So he's got to try and make the best of that right-hand side. And if that means he's going to cross the ball in, then that's got to be something he's got to work on. And if he does, that's another source of goals that we could get, which we didn't have last season.
The thing is, last season, did he have much to aim for in the box? Tom Eves, he's just a big lump. I think what Estepina sort of gives you now is that he's good on the floor. You put balls into the box, he'll be in the right position, but he's also good with his head as well, as I've seen. And I think he can prove that he is. So I think if he can get all types of crosses in the box with Tete at the back post, like you said, I think it could be a recipe for success. I think going forward, but I think it's like I said there, it's Longman's chance now to sort of stake his place if he wants to, and I think he's got certainly if he plays his best game, I think he's still got a lot of years ahead. I think if he can get to his reach his potential, I think he's going to be a good player for the squad.
Yeah, definitely. So it'd be an interesting one. Obviously, a win will definitely see us stay in the top six, and will leave us all in a position of, well, what's this squad capable of when all our best players are back and these new signings come into the mix? Because I keep saying to any of the other content creators or podcasters that are out there at the minute, because they're saying about how many players we're signing and whatnot. I'm like, we're only going to sign 2 more or something. And then I come on to Twitter and we've got like another 2 or 3 names, and it's like, maybe we're not done yet. Because I think we've got Halil Devishoglu, is it?
Yeah, Devishoglu or something like that.
Close enough.
Nonsense.
Pelkas, potentially Christie, Lavinia.
I think Christie's going to happen. It'll probably happen.
I don't think we'll sign Lavinia as well if we sign Christie.
No, I think Christie's the one now in terms of right backs, and I think that'll probably happen tomorrow.
Hopefully, get him. I think if he signs, before 3 p.m. tomorrow.
As long as he signed before, I think it's either 12 or 3.
He might have already signed the papers down. The club's just waiting to announce it tomorrow at like dinner time.
Well, yeah. I mean, Adama Traore is one of our players, and we still haven't announced that.
Yeah.
Departures. Is there actually any players that, at the moment, we couldn't really afford to let any more go?
That's the thing.
The only one I can think of is maybe Cannon.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
And I think that'd be a loan deal just in case we have another injury thing, so we can get him back.
Yeah.
Cannon.
And maybe Kerville as well. I want a loan deal.
I'd like to see him
experience.
Kerville.
What about Randall Williams? Would you keep him in as a useful squad player?
I'd keep him in as backup for
Jevon
now.
Mills as well. I think that's centre back.
Yeah, I think a lot of the younger players definitely could maybe go out.
But in terms of maybe actual first teamers, I can't see any more going out, really. I think Wilks will be the last one.
Of ones that have played, Cannon and maybe Kerville.
Yeah.
Depends who we signed, isn't it? I mean, this Pelkas deal seems to be going on for ages. Not as long as the Adama Traore deal, which is
that's already happened. I don't know. It's already happened
because they've just not announced it, have they?
I don't know what they're doing, but
Apparently, he's got a rumour, an injury that's got him out till at least the end of December. So they're maybe thinking that they're not going to announce him until January when he's actually fit to play. Because if they announce him,
that was my thought. Because they didn't need to register him until January, so they'll probably wait until they need to register him and then announcing it.
What is it? 25 players registered or something?
Something like that.
25. That's one of them, but
yeah, so it's saving the squad place, isn't it? But it'd be interesting to see what happens with that one because. Again, he joins a packed midfield if he signs. But if he doesn't sign, we've kind of he's been training with us for God knows how long.
Yeah, I think he has signed. He's just not been registered and they've just not announced it.
I don't think we're actually anywhere near the FFP thing. I think that was just all big. I think communication wise, if we're referring to the TalkSport thing, I just think they kind of tried to trap him, didn't they? Tried to take advantage of Adjun's maybe limited English in the sense. I know Simon Jordan definitely tried to get some of his big words out, didn't he, to try and catch Adjun out.
Simon Jordan, that's not a. I think that's just to me, does to everyone.
Yeah. But I think we're still within. From what the club have been saying anyway.
We must be because it's over a 3-year period. And we've not spent any money in the past 2 years.
You got to think about the wage bill last season. We were the second lowest in the league as well. So that gave us huge amount of room to, maybe put some more bigger contracts on. And we're probably now only mid-table for wage budget or somewhere near that lower half mid-table kind of thing. Because I can imagine Siri and Tufan are probably on big wages. Greaves has probably got a nice big wage hike. But other than that, the others will probably be average championship wage, I'd imagine. So they won't be too bad.
Yeah.
We've sold KLP. For 16 mil initially, and then he's got add-ons as well. So I don't think we've to worry about FFP at all. I think we're okay, and I think if we were anywhere near FFP, we definitely wouldn't be looking at signing another 4 players. I don't think that would be.
Tankers is the idiot. I don't think from what I've seen, what he speaks like is. He knows what he's on about, which he does.
Yeah, he's impressed me massively. Yeah. Maybe he's impressed me maybe as much as Adjun actually.
Yeah.
In terms of what he said.
I might try.
I think I like it. We still got Darnborough at the club. Like he's sort of the one that's got the knowledge of the English leagues. I think, and
that's
Scotland.
it. I think they've kept him round, so they have someone in the club who knows local.
Tan and his team that he's brought in that know more about the Turkish league, Portuguese, the wider foreign leagues. I think it's where we didn't have that before. We was making a lot of signings from like Scottish League and League One and stuff like that. Now we change of ownership. Now we've got more of like a change direction of recruitment and it's working. You know what I mean?
It's interesting as well because Lee Darnborough actually got quite a lot of stick for the signings we were making when realistically it's probably the only signings he could have made.
And the budget last season was under
for a while.
Couldn't even make any signings really, could we?
For a couple of seasons there, I was starting to think he wasn't even a real person and he was just made up by the Allams.
He might still not be. He might just be a phantom name that's been dotted around by Adjun and they've never actually
some football manager region or something.
Yeah. Right. So I think that's pretty much covered everything. Unless any viewers or any of you guys have got anything left to say. Before we finish up, obviously, I'll mention the FCAs again. It's our first proper year of pushing for it. So everybody who has voted for. Thank you and continue to share it about if you can. I've been getting my lead supporting mates at work to vote for us, so it is possible. You can convince them. I had to buy him cans of Monsters and stuff, but I
voted for the Boothry Park podcast.
Well, true.
No,
I'm just not voting for my own podcast. It's right.
No, that's it. Yeah. You take the moral high ground, Will. That's fine.
Nah, come on. Need all of us and get. You know what I
mean? But I think you can vote on Instagram. You can vote on Twitter, or you can vote through the actual website. You just keep an eye on our social media channels if you're not entirely sure what to do. The link is on the link tree to just go straight to the website. Just type to Hull and Back in the box that says Best Podcast Football League, and then just press vote and you're done. That's absolutely all you have to do. Or you just tweet saying. I'm voting for tag us for best podcast at tag the FCAs, and I think that's it for Twitter. Yeah. But I will tweet out.
Just copy and paste the tweet, don't you?
Just copy and paste for people. We have retweeted anybody that's done it. Anyone. So FCAs, please vote for us. Thank you if you have done. Thanks to the sponsors, Pearson's and 6 Yards Out. So head to there. websites on the link tree as well. And a quick thing to mention, so the podcast shirts that we did, there is actually a raffle going on at the minute where 100% of the money raised goes straight to Andy's Man Club. We're doing it on the Amber Circle group on Facebook, so if you're not part of it, you won't be able to enter the raffle, so you need to join the group to be in it. The rules are, it's because the donation site is £10 minimum, so each slot for the raffle is £10. You can have a maximum of 3 slots. Obviously, you don't have too many, so you can have up to 30 quid's worth of slots. You have to post evidence of you donating it to Andy's Man Club in the comments, then pick your numbers, and then when all the slots are filled, we'll draw for the winner. We're doing one for the home, one for away. Hopefully raise about £400 for charity. So if you want a shirt for maybe a tenner, see if you're lucky enough to win it, get on down to the Amber Circle and join in on that one. And I think that's it for us today. Thanks for joining me today, Will and Tom. It was nice having you on. It was nice not having to deal with long rants from Nathaniel today. It was a nice break.
This would have been about 3 hours. It was long. It spoke about long.
And Joel, the usual ghost in the background. But cheers to everyone who's viewing. Cheers to everyone who's. Please like and subscribe as well. The audio will be out either tonight or tomorrow morning, one of the two. Just keep your eyes out on social media. We'll release it. Thanks everybody, and we will see you next time.